Um,
So coming back to the point on freelancers, if you don't mind. So from some of our experiences, we were finding that the freelancing environment in many countries, which you'd think to outsource in, is really starting to take over the employment potential. So what I mean by that is you can find many excellent candidates, and the ones who are mainly talented tend to want to stay and remain as freelancers, and they're very much against taking an employed position and building a career. Is that something you found, that the freelance environment is preventing people from pursuing careers within employed positions?
I first of all, I definitely see the world as a whole going in that direction. Freelancing is just like month to month gaining traction, gaining good talent that can solve complex tasks for a very reasonable amount of money, where they don't like, and it goes both ways. The freelancer doesn't have to take on the responsibility on a fixed employment, and as well as the company doesn't have to take on the risk of employing someone full time with severance pay um, and said like onboarding a person to the team with all that effort that comes associated with that. Um, so I definitely see it going in that direction, and I also hope it will go in that direction, because it will radically make bigger demands to especially the freelancer on his self-discipline in terms of what he needs to deliver over what amount of time
So,
to a certain clients to be rehired.
so Casper, I struggle with that a little bit, and the reason for that is let's take a graphic designer as an example. If you're hiring a graphic designer, you find an amazing graphic designer on a freelancing platform, and you give them a project, they do an okay job. And the reason they're going to do an okay job, even though they're a fantastic graphic designer, is they don't understand your brand and your vision of how you're articulating a project just yet. So you find that the taste and their understanding of your requirements matures with time. The best graphic designer I have has been working with me for 5, 6 years.
Mhm.
And finally, they understand your intuitive want. You can send a couple of bullet points on an email and they mock it up perfectly how you want it, and it's good to go. Right. So that's not to do with the level of ability or qualification. It's the time spent in that role. And the same can be said for sales roles, for development roles, junior developers, senior developers. It takes time for them to understand the requirements. So part of the challenge of having too much of a freelance community, I find, from a founder's point of view, is yes, they come with convenience for small projects, right? If I have a small project, great, fire it across to a freelancer, they'll get it done 80% to how you want it to be done, and then you can refine it and you're good to go. But in terms of a long-term hiring a freelancer, on a retained basis, what's to stop them from disappearing after month 4? And then you've invested the first 3 months trying to get them to understand your vision and the way you want the design to be done. It just becomes very prohibitive, and it almost, you start questioning, was there any economic benefit in the first place, or was I better off just employing someone from the get-go, investing 6 months while they learn the process, and then you've got a graphic designer who understands what you want. What's your view on that?
I think it's like us as a founder, we that is our finest job to really gouge every project that we have internally, because we would probably have a feel if this is something that requires a long-term involvement, or if this is something that can be solved on a short-term basis. But it's a good example, because for example, when we are hiring new developers, it will be extremely difficult for an outside freelancer to jump into our code and just fix something without knowing what he's messing up. Like it requires an extensive amount of very unique knowledge that, regardless how good of a coder you are, you won't know how our platform is set up, and you need time to familiarize yourself with that.